All right, today we're going to be talking about Bitfarms and actually why I don't own them. And I know a lot of people are going to see the title of this video and immediately hit the dislike button or fume off in the comment section down below, whatever they need to do. And you know, I completely understand. It's like somebody random calling your girlfriend fat or ugly. I mean, you're going to be offended. So I completely understand, but I do encourage everybody that comes across this video to at least hear what I have to say. Maybe I'll present some new information to you, or maybe you've already done this research and you have a reason not to be concerned. And I love to hear all of your comments in the comment section down below. But really quickly, if you are new here or returning and not yet subscribed, please subscribe down below. We have one of the fastest growing stock market YouTube channels on this platform. It's crazy to think about, but it's entirely thanks to you guys, this amazing community that shows up to watch my videos every single day. I'm incredibly blessed, and I don't take a single day for granted being able to talk to you guys about what I love. So please subscribe down below. Without further ado, let's get into this. The first thing that I want to make clear to everybody here is that I'm not saying it's wrong or it's bad to own Bitfarms stock. What I'm doing is giving you my opinion about this, and a lot of what I say might seem like I'm comparing it to CleanSpark, and it's probably because I am. I am an investor in CleanSpark, and it's because I have done this research, and to me, CleanSpark looks like the best investment opportunity. And obviously, it's proven to be a very good investment for me. I mean, we were buying at $2 and $4 back in 2020, and then we bought again at $2 and $4 in 2022. So, you know, my cost basis is amazing, but that's not to brag. I'm just telling you, I am a little bit biased. I'm a CleanSpark shareholder, and some of the thoughts I have today will be in comparison to CleanSpark and why I think CleanSpark is better. That's just naturally going to come out in what I have to say today. But also, I'm not naive. I realize a rising tide lifts all boats with Bitcoin. If the price of Bitcoin goes up, the price of Bitfarms is going to go up significantly, just like the rest of the Bitcoin mining stocks. Again, I just think CleanSpark's the best option. But let's give you some background on Bitfarms. Today, it actually had a really good trading day, up 6% and then up another 3% after hours. Over the past 5 days, it's only up 0.5%. And year to date, it's actually been a struggle for Bitfarms. They're kind of middle of the pack when it comes to stock price performance out of all of the public Bitcoin mining companies. The screenshot here shows you the performance. The worst is Moss and Infrastructure and Argo Blockchain. Bitfarms is right in the middle with minus 28.5% return. And there's only one Bitcoin miner this year that is positive year to date, and it's CleanSpark. Every other Bitcoin mining stock is red in 2024, despite Bitcoin being up 65% year to date. So I think all things considered, not even just talking about Bitfarms, I think as a whole, there's a really unique buying opportunity with all of the Bitcoin mining stocks right now. We've had time periods like this in the past where the miners significantly lag the price of Bitcoin. Then, you know, after the halving event or some catalyst takes place, that's when the Bitcoin miners really start to outperform Bitcoin. So it's just kind of a patience game. These opportunities come around every once in a while, but they're very rare. I don't think this time's going to be any different. If you buy Bitcoin miners right now, I think you're going to do very, very well for yourself. But let's get back to talking about Bitfarms. My first concern comes straight from their annual reports. Just a side note, if you look for a 10K for Bitfarms, you won't find it because they're domiciled in Canada. So they actually file a Form 40F. If you click on the Form 40F, that's their annual report. And in this is a long 2 pages about their relationship with Hydro-Quebec. You guys can go in and read this for yourselves. It starts on page 62 and goes to like page 65 or something like that. But I'll just give you kind of a general overview of this concern of mine with their relationship with Hydro-Quebec. But the first thing we have to understand and realize here is that Hydro-Quebec is the entity that provides Bitfarms their power. And in the past, Hydro-Quebec has been able to offer Bitfarms preferential rates on their electricity to encourage investment in Quebec. However, over the past couple of years, what is essentially the government of Quebec, they've been trying to pass on a tariff to Bitfarms preferential rates that they receive from Hydro-Quebec. You can see the amount of this tariff on the screen here, 15 cents Canadian per kilowatt hour on cryptocurrency mining facilities. However, again, this gets kind of complicated. I encourage you to read through this for yourselves. Because Bitfarms facilities were built and their contracts were signed prior to June of 2018, they have been exempt from this tariff in the past. However, now all of a sudden, the government of Quebec is trying to go back on this and say now they need to start paying this tariff. The reason this is a big deal is, of course, if you follow Bitcoin mining companies, their power costs are a huge cost input to their company. and 15 cents Canadian is 11 cents in US dollars. So this is a significant tariff that would significantly increase their cost of mining because their power costs would go through the roof. Right now, it seems like Bitfarms, Hydro-Quebec, and the government of Quebec, all three of them are kind of at odds with each other, and there is a chance here that Bitfarms' preferential rates on their electricity is not going to be preferential anymore because of this tariff or a separate tariff that might be placed on the electricity they use. And maybe your argument here is, well, this is just Quebec. They have plenty of other locations out there that aren't affected by this. But my pushback to that is 158 of their 240 megawatts are located in Quebec. So basically 62% of their megawatts under management are located in Quebec, which is a very large percentage of their company. Is it a guarantee that their power costs are going to skyrocket and this tariff is going to be placed on their company? Absolutely not. But is it a potential headwind? Is it a legal battle the company has to fight? Is it a distraction? Is it another string attached to owning Bitfarms? Is it a concern for investors? All of those answers are yes. And then kind of another leg to all of this is the fact that the government decided to create a new class of energy consumers called electricity consumer class for cryptographic use applied to blockchain. Yada, yada, yada. But essentially, the government allocated 300 megawatts of electricity for future use for cryptocurrency clients, if that makes sense. So all of Bitfarms' previous infrastructure and existing infrastructure is not affected by this. But if Bitfarms does want to continue to grow in Quebec, they have to claim a part of this 300 megawatts. And even worse, this 300 megawatts doesn't even exist anymore. You'll see on just September 9th of last year, the government approved the reduction to 0 megawatts for the remaining quantity of the reserved block, which totaled approximately 270 megawatts at the time. So at least the way I'm reading this, and there's a lot of legalese here, like I'm not saying I'm 100% accurate with this. I might not be. It's really hard to decipher these things. But to me, it looks like there is no ability for Bitfarms to expand in Quebec because the government has taken this 300 megawatt block that they've set aside for this purpose away. They've reduced it to 0. And then to maybe wrap this section of the video up, you can see on January 17th of 2024, after they tried to settle this outside of court, and that proved to be unsuccessful, the company has requested the reactivation of the complaint and that a date for the hearing be fixed. So as of now, as of the most recent public information, this is an ongoing court battle, which is a string attached. And you'll notice a lot of the reason I like CleanSpark is because they don't have strings attached like this. Oh, and this is actually my last point. I about forgot about this, but Hydro-Quebec is providing this preferential rate currently to Bitfarms at a financial loss. So this is actually very similar, in my opinion, to Marathon's exposure to hosting providers in the past that guaranteed uptime, but then energy prices got jacked up, and these hosting providers were guaranteeing uptime while giving that uptime at a net loss for their company. There is risk here, no matter how big or small it is, it exists, that Hydro-Quebec, Bitfarms' electricity provider, could go bust. And if that happens, Bitfarms will just be kind of stranded and they'll have to find a new place for their mining rigs, or they'll have to move locations, which costs money. It's just another headache and another string attached to investing in Bitfarms that I don't think is necessary. I don't have to have exposure to this risk when I invest in CleanSpark. And then secondly, you may have seen it in the news a couple weeks ago, Paraguay was going to pass a temporary ban on all Bitcoin mining. Paraguay is another location that Bitfarms has a lot of their mining rigs at. And obviously, a ban on mining cryptocurrency in Paraguay would not be good for Bitfarms here. However, about a week ago, these headlines started to change, now saying Paraguay is reconsidering this mining ban. If you want to get caught up on this situation, go read this article by Nico Smid. It was published on April 9th. It's titled "Mining Ban Paraguay, a $100 million mistake." This gives you a great background, and I just wanted to shout out this article because it was a part of my research process for this video. I'll leave a link to it in the description down below. So I guess it's a good thing that this mining ban bill is probably going to be dismissed, at least short term. It really doesn't get rid of the reasons it was going to be passed in the first place, and this article talks about it. Paraguay doesn't like the illegal Bitcoin mining operation. And there seems to be a lot of them in their country. They are stealing power and their government doesn't like that. And they're looking for fixes for that. And ultimately, the best fix probably is a temporary mining ban on all cryptocurrency miners. So I guess while this is kind of a sigh of relief for Bitfarms investors or prospective investors, it doesn't really get rid of the underlying problem. Paraguay clearly has some political risk involved with having mining operations there. A problem like this doesn't get fixed and doesn't go away overnight. This is going to remain a problem for probably years to come. There's going to be people in the Paraguayan government, I guess is how you would say it, that aren't fans of Bitcoin mining, similar to how that's the case in the United States of America. But especially overseas, it becomes difficult because power is such a big need. And when you have illegal operations stealing that power, it doesn't go over well in developing countries. So while the ban could be put on hiatus, I don't think we can completely dismiss it as investors here because the underlying problem still exists. And there is a chance in the future that even if it's not Bitfarms' fault, they will be impacted by a mining ban because of the illegal miners that are occupying electricity and stealing power in Paraguay. Yet again, it's just another string attached to Bitfarms that I don't feel like I want. I don't want exposure to this risk when I don't need exposure to it. An interesting point in this article that I want to directly point your attention to is that Paraguay sells energy locally to miners at $39 to $51 per megawatt hour, significantly higher than the $10 per megawatt hour rate offered to neighboring Brazil. The Paraguayan government is leveraging these pending requests for 2,000 megawatts to negotiate better prices for selling power to Brazil. So this tells you, just based on the government's, the way they've operated, they actually prefer to sell power to Brazil over the Bitcoin miners. So that just tells you inherently, naturally, there is kind of a disregard to Bitcoin mining operators in their country. They would still rather sell their power to neighboring Brazil at somewhat of a discount than to sell that to the Bitcoin miners. Now, I'm sure they're going to be educated on this, and some people are going to change their minds that are in government. Again, though, it's just another risk that I don't think I want anything to do with it when I don't have to have anything to do with it. And I don't just want to pick on Bitfarms here. Marathon Digital also has operations in Paraguay, and they're subject to the same risks here that Bitfarms is. And then lastly, I just want to note that Bitfarms has operations in Canada, the United States, Paraguay, Argentina, and all four of these are four separate governments, which means you have to have experts that understand these countries and their governments and how they work better than anybody else in this space. Bitfarms has significant jurisdictional risk by being so spread out amongst countries and continents. If they want to be good stewards of shareholder capital, they have to have experts that are always in the know with all of these governments around the world, and they also need to understand how businesses work in each of these four countries and how they can make the most money in each of these four countries separately. That's a lot to ask. That is a big ask. And really, it's tough to ask a company the size of Bitfarms to be exceptional at those things. More power to them if they can accomplish it. But if they fall short in any of those things, they're actually doing a disservice to shareholders of their stock because they're not operating as efficiently as they could be or they should be. And in my opinion, we can't just dismiss Paraguay and Argentina because there also is significant risk by having your business operations in these countries because both of those countries are subject to heavy external shocks that might be caused by significant economic difficulties around the world or maybe war even. This is another risk that you have to deal with when you invest in Bitfarms over a company like CleanSpark. And it's just another reason why I think CleanSpark is constantly valued at a premium. You would much rather, let's say the world goes to war tomorrow. You would much rather have your company's operations be in the United States of America than in Paraguay or Argentina. There's actually a very good chance in the case of world war that Bitcoin mining farms could be heavy targets of governments and militaries to take them over because it's a revenue opportunity that can't be disrupted by the price of oil, for example. It's just like how militaries and governments target airports when they go to war overseas. They target the airports. They target the most important infrastructure. And I think Bitcoin mining farms are just another example of that. And God forbid, if we go to World War again, I think Bitcoin mining operations are going to be a target. So I don't think most investors are oblivious to these things that I've mentioned today. I think most investors probably have heard of some of them, if not all of them. But I do think it's a big mistake of investors to make, and I've seen it happen with Bitfarms especially recently. They say, sentiment is terrible. All the news is bad news, and that's why I'm buying this stock, because I saw RexFinance and all these CleanSpark investors make so much money by buying CleanSpark when nobody wanted them and everybody doubted them. And respectfully, I think that's an incorrect approach, because back when I was buying CleanSpark, I looked at the backbone of the company. You know, in yesterday's video, I mentioned how no matter how long this stock market correction or crash or dip lasts, I think it's going to be a long-term buying opportunity, because the backbone of the stock market, the economy, is performing very, very well. It's not much different with individual stocks. I don't like to invest in companies where the backbone is at risk, and it just seems like there's more and more weights being put on these companies' shoulders. And I think that's certainly the case with Bitfarms, and all of this jurisdictional risk and political risk and the legal battles they're fighting and the small chance that their power rates are going to be jacked up. It's just stuff that I don't think I want to deal with, because I don't have to deal with it, and I think I can still get tremendous exposure to Bitcoin by buying CleanSpark. So suffice that all to say, I don't think it's a good idea or good investment logic just to say, sentiment's bad, I'm buying. Although sometimes that works, you also have to be investing in something that has a good backbone that really isn't under pressure. And I think Bitfarms' backbone is certainly under pressure right now, which makes me a little bit skittish in investing into the company. I think Wall Street probably echoes my feelings about this. You know, why buy Bitfarms or why buy Marathon or why buy these other Bitcoin mining companies when we can buy the all-American Bitcoin miner CleanSpark and not subject ourselves to all of this risk when we don't have to subject ourselves to all of this risk, and we can still get great return by owning CleanSpark. But again, I want to make clear that I'm not saying I'm right here. I'm simply explaining my thoughts and opinions about this. I'd be happy to entertain anybody else's thoughts and opinions in the comments section down below. I love having Discord about this stuff. I think it makes us all smarter and sharper. But yeah, with that, I hope you have a great rest of your day. Remember to subscribe if you're new here or returning not yet subscribed. If you want access to more exclusive content like this, my macro analysis, my buy and sell alerts, my price target spreadsheets, you name it, you can get access to that stuff by joining my membership, hitting the join button located right next to the subscribe button, or hit my Patreon link in the pinned comment. I'm entirely self-funded. I will never take a paycheck from any company ever, because I think my independence is key to the trust that my followers have in me, and I don't want to ruin that. So I'm entirely self-funded, so your monthly support means a lot to me. So if consider joining that if that interests you. With that, have a great rest of your day. Stay blessed. Keep 10 toes to the ground and your chin up. Peace out.